Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. This segment is me responding to a question that I received from Martin, otherwise known as Over a Pipe, or his channel Over a Pipe. This is in regards to my video, Government Wants to Set Up a New Financial System. So he asked, have you been, let's see here, I'll skip the, the compliments here. So, what should I do with my money to hedge against the upcoming collapse? Do we buy gold and silver? With interest rates going up, do you think it'll pop the real estate bubble? The real estate bubble's already popping. It's you see some dips, and then you see it come back, and a lot of the comeback is large corporations buying these houses outright and adding to their portfolios for real estate because in accordance with the Great Reset, we don't need homeowners, we need renters. So that's always cool. Do we buy gold and silver? Well, traditionally, I think everyone should have a certain percentage of their assets in gold and silver. That includes me, and I do. So, having said that, I would suggest having that as one of your fallbacks. Um, I personally believe in having tangible things. So, gold and silver being one of them. If you can hold it in your hand and somebody has to physically take it away from you, that's a tangible asset. If it's a bunch of ones and zeros and sitting in some bank account, um, I personally don't like that, unfortunately, considering how you pay bills and how money is transferred now. I still write checks. I know, it's weird. I still buy these things called stamps. They're these little sticky things that go in an envelope. If you need to know what an envelope is, go out to your mailbox and pull out some junk mail. Some of that's probably in an envelope. Um, let's see here. Speaking of stamps, one good investment, not a huge investment, but they still have forever stamps, which means if you buy it now at the current rate, even when the price goes up, you can still use it. That's why it's a forever stamp. So if you buy a stamp for 50 cents and 5 years from now it's 75, 80 cents a stamp, you can still use that 50-cent stamp. Uh, that's just one little trick. Let's see here, with interest rates still going up. The housing bubble, I already talked about that a little bit. Um, that is one thing that you will want to take care of. Any debts that you have, whether it's a credit card, uh, even student loan debt. If you have student loan debt, try to pay that off because that's just something that can be held against you financially. And when inflation goes up and the federal government says, yeah, so you now owe 10% plus the principal of what your loan is, that's going to suck a lot more than if you were to just pay it off now. Mortgage, either downsize your house, find something else that's cheaper that you can afford, or pay off the house that you have. If you already have 50, 60% of your house paid off, sit down, figure out a plan to get it paid off within the next couple years. Seriously. Having no debt is best. Um, I would pay off any debt before I even try to save any money. Have a little bit set aside in case you have an emergency, like $1,000 or so. Shouldn't be too hard, but have that money set aside in case something breaks on your car or you need to fix a window that breaks in the house, you get a hole in the roof, something's always going to happen, a busted pipe, whatever. You have that emergency fund. But in the meantime, any extra money that comes your way, pay off stuff. If you have 2 or 3 cars and you're making payments on 2 or 3 cars, either get rid of one or pay one off and then roll that money into the next car. All right? And odds are if you have a car payment, you probably have a house payment. Pay off the little stuff first, then roll all that money into the next big thing. Um, if you'd like a book on how to do stuff like this, check out Dave Ramsey, The Total Money Makeover. He sold God knows how many millions of copies, and that's probably because it works. If you're religious, it'll speak to you. If you're not religious, skip those chapters, because the other information will be handy to you, but if it's just going to turn you off to even trying any of it, then just skip any of the religious stuff that's in the book. It's pretty simple. So anyways, Dave Ramsey, check him out. I know somebody's going to say something about Bitcoin and digital currencies. Like I said, if you can hold it in your hand, cool. If it's just a bunch of ones and zeros on your computer and you're going to have to worry about, oh, I don't know, a power surge or your hard drive burning out or losing your phone, I'm not really impressed with digital currency at all. For one, I don't understand it, and I know some people are gonna just cringe at hearing that. I don't really care. It doesn't make any sense. It makes as much sense to me as the fiat currency that we have now through the federal government. That's backed by nothing. And as for Bitcoin, it's only backed by its own existence, which is just another form of fiat currency. It doesn't make any sense to me yet. Well, there's only a finite number of it. Well, cool, but there's only a finite number of most things on the planet, okay? That's why certain countries used seashells for currency. Like, oh, I'll take 10 shells for this melon. But, it just, to me, it makes absolutely no sense. You can go ahead and invest it as much as you want. That's your thing. That's your freedom to do that whatsoever. But, with the warnings about a cyber attack and the possibility of power going out, that doesn't exclude anything that's going to hit our financial system. So, yeah, bank accounts, any way of transferring digital currency. If the power goes out, even for a week, good luck going down to your 7-Eleven and trying to buy something from the dude behind the counter. Well, I've got Bitcoin. What's that? How do you give him the Bitcoin? Unless you have something in your hand to hand him in trade for that item that you need, good luck. So, not a fan of the digital currency whatsoever. Let's say you have no debt, you have property, you are financially set, things that you can still do to hedge your bet against inflation. That would be, again, tangible items, but useful items. A lot of people are pushing for seeds, organic, heirloom seeds, things that you can put into the ground. Of course, you need proper storage for these. There's plenty of videos to find information on that. Any type of tools, especially hand-powered, good quality tools. You can get some of that. Gasoline. Yeah, get a couple of 5-gallon containers of gasoline, fill those up, and store them away. Make sure you have some stable fuel in them. You'll want to rotate those out too. So, every couple of weeks you go to fill your car, just use what you have in the garage, refill that container, and again, make sure it's stabilized and you've got gas for trade, for usage. Also, it's kind of good to know that, wow, what I just put in my tank only cost me $3.50 a gallon, and right now it's over $4. Of course, you also have to refill that container, so that kind of sucks. But still. Let's see if there's anything else I can come up. I would also keep away from the stock market. Stay away from any U.S. government bonds because with interest rates being close to zero, those bonds will never mature in your lifetime, ever. You will never see the return on any type of government issued bonds. Like, skip that. That's just not happening. There's also a penalty if you try to turn them in early, which is hysterically funny considering that they purposely designed the whole system to make sure that you could never turn them in at this point. Like, I actually have a bond sitting in somewhere, and even though I got it back in the 90s, the way that interest rates have been, I will never be able to cash that in. It's pretty awesome system they have there. So let's see here. Stock market. The stock market is overinflated due to the printing of money. That's why we saw a delay in a lot of the inflation that we're seeing now. So people were pointing out, like, yeah, they're printing money, but we haven't seen any inflation. That was what, a year or two ago they were talking about this. Now we're starting to see the inflation. That's because a lot of the money that was printed was bought up by a lot of companies, corporations. They took that money from the Federal Reserve, threw it into the stock market, which is why the numbers are as high as they are. It's artificially inflated with free money, essentially. And now that that money is starting to dwindle out into the rest of the economy, we're starting to see the issues with inflation now. It's also multiplied by the supply chain shortages in a lot of things. The government shutdowns from COVID, that was a brilliant fucking idea. Yeah, let's just shut down the meat processing centers, any of the dairy operations, the farms. Oh, illegal immigrants working on the farm have COVID. Oh no, you can't go to work now. We have no idea what we're going to do with you. That was a great plan. Yeah, so shutting everything down for COVID, that helped. Now Shanghai is shut down. China shut down their ports, so we're not getting stuff now, which is not inflation. The price increase from that comes from scarcity. And that is completely separate from inflation. Inflation is the overabundance of the US dollar. When you have scarcity, that raises the price. That is the market value. And that is what a lot of these freaking idiot talking heads on TV don't seem to understand. Well, the inflation is caused by anything that comes out of their mouth after that point. They don't know what they're talking about because they're not talking about inflation afterwards. If you're talking about the increase in prices, yeah, a lot of it has to do with scarcity. That's pretty simple. When stuff is not being delivered from China and there's a limited number of items here because of that, that is scarcity. That artificially inflates the number for the price. Inflation is the money used to buy that item having less value than it did before, plus the higher value of that item because of scarcity, which increases the price even more. So yeah, Germany is now seeing a 30 to 50% increase in prices for items at their supermarkets as of today. That was announced yesterday that the German public was going to see that. And I've been seeing videos lately on YouTube where people are saying that Aldi, of all places, are seeing like spikes in their prices at Aldi stores, which really, really sucks because Aldi was the one place where I was like, oh, finally I have an alternative to Meijer and Walmart. I will throw out there, somebody was saying that Walmart has 25-pound bags of flour for $7.99. If you're worried about wheat shortage, bread, the price of bread going up, you want to start learning how to bake at home, probably a good time to stock up. Maybe get 100 pounds or so, take it home, figure out the best way to store it for long term. I would also suggest picking up some 5 gallon buckets from your local Lowe's or Home Depot. Food grade buckets, it's usually the same 5 gallon buckets, but pick those up, learn how to store food in them, seal them up really good, and yeah, man. Other things you could do, long-term food storage. That's a good way to hedge against inflation because the price of food's going to go up. Canned goods, non-perishables. Honey is a good one. Alcohol is a good one. Just because of the indefinite shelf life for a lot of that. Stay away from beer. Anything that's like 15% or more alcohol, indefinite shelf life because the alcohol is so high it'll kill any bacteria that might be in there. And if it's distilled, you're good to go. Just throw that in the basement. It's not going anywhere. It's not going bad. Awesome. Yeah, so food, the ability to make food, the ability to get water. If you could put some type of alternative well on your property, have that done. There are home do-it-yourself kits that you can do, like a hand pump or something on your property. Check that out if it's something you're interested in. And the wildlife and your property. Chickens, goats, pigs, anything that you can breed, trade, and feed yourself with. I know a lot of people in Alaska don't butcher their chickens because the eggs are more valuable than the meat you get from the bird. Think of things like that. So, and if you don't have birds or animals like that, animal feed. Buy a couple bags of animal feed, and it might be trade in order to get some food from somebody who has those animals that need to feed them. Something to think about. You might get 2 chickens for a bag of chicken feed because it'll feed the other 10 birds that they have, you know? Stuff to think about. But it's definitely good to either pay off your debt first. It's good to, after that point, once your debt is paid off, either if you're already stocked up on stuff, cool, good for you. Because stocking up and having a full pantry is a good way to hedge against inflation. But then find alternative ways of securing that dollar in an asset that you can later trade for the current value of that asset. Because as the dollar loses its value, that $2,000 ounce of gold, a year or two from now, it could be worth $5,000 or $6,000. Not that the $5,000 or $6,000 really means anything, but if you have $2,000 now in your bank account, and a year from now, it's not going to have that value. You know, you're going to want something that keeps that value and increases with the devaluation of the dollar. So that's about it. That's what I have. If I missed anything, if you can think of anything else, put a comment in below, and I might make another video on it. Keep on typing.